Now, I'd like to introduce Rachel Itle, Assistant Research Scientist in Fruit Production and Genetics with the University of Georgia. She'll be presenting blueberry fruit quality research at the University of Georgia. Dr. Itle's research program focuses on perennial fruit crops with a focus on blueberry. Her program has an emphasis on studying physicochemical fruit quality traits and understanding the genetics behind them. Collaborative research in her program also focuses on overall plant growth in response to different cultural management techniques, including freeze protection strategies, biostimulant applications, and trellising systems, among others. Blueberry fruit quality among the Georgia blueberry types is highly debated among members of the blueberry industry. However, there are not many studies done with current commercial cultivars. The blueberry fruit quality research conducted in Dr. Itle's program aims to give the industry fruit quality comparisons across the major commercial blueberry types and cultivars for key quality characteristics. And now, Dr. Itle.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, everyone, in our virtual conference. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the blueberry fruit quality research that we've been conducting in my program this past year. So quickly, I'll just give a little bit of an update or an overview of the fruit quality debate for those of you who may be new to the blueberry industry. Within Georgia, we have two main commercial types grown, southern highbush and rabbiteye. There is a third commercial type, northern highbush blueberry. Among these three types, there is a very subjective idea that northern highbush have a higher fruit quality than southern highbush and rabbiteye types. However, there's limited information to really support this thought process. This bias may lead to a lower price point for our southern highbush and rabbiteye types in Georgia or complete cultivar exclusion. Some of the common perceptions are that northern highbush have superior fruit quality overall, and rabbiteye are grittier, seedier, and tougher than highbush types, for example. Because there are few studies in instrumental fruit quality and consumer acceptability, the goal of this research is to give some actual factual information to help dispel some of the subjective biases. So today I'm going to talk about three ongoing projects in my program. The first is a consumer taste panel of the fruit quality evaluations of major cultivars in the three types. The second is post-harvest fresh keeping quality evaluations. And the third is the newest addition, the flavor aroma profile evaluations. So the first study was conducted by one of my master's students, Kathleen Amaral, who recently graduated this past May. So we're going to go over a little bit about the instrumental fruit quality that she conducted. We'll talk about textural traits in this talk for the sake of time, and also because texture is one of the main things debated between the three major blueberry types. So fruit collection, we got 5 southern highbush, 4 rabbiteye, and 3 northern highbush over 2 years. I'm just going to be presenting the data that is in common across the 2 years of the study instead of each year individually. The goal was to get commercially packed fruit with the goal of having the same kind of quality that a consumer will get that we would be testing. So the harvest was whatever was going on commercially at that time. Usually highbush types are hand harvested with machine harvest for rabbiteyes, a little bit different in 2019, but again, aiming to have the commercial representation of each variety that year. Fruit were warmed up to room temperature to prevent any extra firmness that may happen if it was cold. And the 4 measurements that we're going to talk about today are skin toughness. So fruit skin toughness, you can see here in image A, that is an individual fruit measurement. It's likened to putting the berry between your front 2 teeth and biting down, so that initial pop of the skin. The second is the fruit firmness in image B. That's a composite measurement. It would be similar to popping a handful of berries in your mouth and biting down with your molars. So it has the composite of the skin strength and the flesh for the fruit firmness. Next, we did in C here an example of seediness traits. We went ahead and sliced open berries, measured and weighed and counted the seeds between the types. And we also examined fiber content as well. So some of the results. So overall, there were significant differences among cultivars for all of the textural traits that we're going to talk about today. And there's also a variation across lowest and highest cultivars for the textural traits. Just to help guide your eye, and because it's a recorded presentation, you can go back and watch it again if you so wish. High is marked by the purple line underlined, and the lowest varieties are with the dark blue underlined, so you can go through and see. And then also, I'm just going to be talking about comparisons across types today. If you want to compare how, for example, a cultivar did from one year to another for puncture in, which is skin toughness, you would look at this capital letter here. So A to B, this means that Camilla in 2018 was significantly higher than in 2019. So it got softer in 2019. So there's year-to-year variation. We're just going to be looking at these little letters here. If they do not share at least one letter, that means they're different. If they share at least one letter, that means they're not statistically different. So just a little recap on that for those of you who may not be super familiar looking at tables like this. So overall for skin toughness, the rankings of type varied across years. For example, in 2018, we see that Southern highbush was the highest, followed by Northern highbush and rabbiteye. But that got changed a bit in 2019. We also saw a little bit of variation in fruit firmness for year 1 and fruit 2. I'm not going to talk too much about consistency across years, but I have the notes in there for you to guide you if you'd like. Overall, these results do not support that rabbiteye have tougher skin and firmer fruit than highbush types, which is a common subjective perception of that type. For seediness traits, plump seed numbers for both years, we saw the same trend that rabbiteye were higher than Southern highbush, which were then higher than Northern highbush. In shriveled seed, we saw that Northern highbush for both years had the highest number. In total seed, the total seed between all 3 types for year 1, no difference. And year 2, there was a bit of a difference with Northern highbush being higher, which is likely attributed to the higher shriveled seed number. And shriveled seed can be compared to, everyone's familiar with watermelon. You have that white translucent seed that doesn't have a nice plump baby plant in it, an embryo. We have the same thing in blueberries. It's just not as visible as it would be in watermelon, for example. So overall, the results suggest that there is type variation across years for this trait too. So there's some sort of environmental variation happening, whether it be weather patterns or pre-harvest intervals or whatever it may be. There's something occurring here that's not just the blueberry type or the blueberry cultivar causing these differences. So we need to examine that further. But the big result here is that Southern highbush and rabbiteye are not seedier than Northern highbush. That's what our data suggest. For the last part of the seed traits, total seed weight, rabbiteye weighed more in both years than Southern highbush and Northern highbush. And when we looked at seed weight to berry weight ratio, rabbiteyes were higher for both years as well. And this suggests that rabbiteye has this higher percent seed weight to berry weight ratio. This may be due to the number of plump seed that are present compared to the highbush types. For fiber, we measured 2 measurements of fiber, NDF and ADF. Rabbiteye was higher for NDF in both years as compared to the highbush types, and same thing for ADF. And these results suggest that rabbiteye may have more insoluble fiber than highbush types, but this also may be beneficial for fiber intake and may be interesting to consider it for a value-added product as well. Next, we did some consumer taste panels with this fruit. So one portion of it went to instrumental measurements and another portion went to the consumer taste panels. We also, we brought them into the pilot plant there in food science, and we wanted to get the best representation of each cultivar. So that means removing any underripe, overripe fruit, as you could see here, because when the consumer gets that 3-ounce cup of fruit, you don't want 1 or 2 bad berries in there to give them a bad overall impression. So we really took a lot of care to make sure we really sorted that out. For the purpose of today's talk, I'm just going to focus on the 54 consumers that were in common between year 1 and year 2. So we had the same people come back over time, but we do have all the information for 2018 and 2019 individually. People were asked, or consumers were asked, a number of questions. How do they like lots of various traits that we talk about with blueberry? The main one that we're going to talk about today is overall liking. So it's the composite of how much they like the sample overall, considering all of its attributes. Then also how much do they like the skin toughness or fruit firmness or flavor or so forth. And they measured it on a 1 to 9 scale, with 1 being distro-like, extremely, just hated it, 5 neutral, and 9 like extremely. So for the consumer acceptability data, the most interesting result of this study to me continues to be that the majority of consumers for both 2018 and 19 liked Southern highbush types. For overall liking, again, this is the gold standard, how much they like the whole cultivar overall for both years, as well as for overall texture. Rabbiteye and Northern highbush were not different for overall liking, both 18 and 19, and overall texture in 2018. So to me, that's also a very significant result in the simple sense of rabbiteye is always perceived in these conversations as being inferior to Northern highbush. And in consumer panels, we're seeing that no, they liked it the same as the Northern highbush varieties. The lowest variety, also an interesting thing to point out here, was in Northern highbush, and it was the only cultivar to receive means below 5. So overall, these results suggest that most consumers like Southern highbush texture more than Northern highbush and rabbiteye. And rabbiteye and Northern highbush were equally liked in some of those areas, which is very contrary to subjective perception. Looking at the liking for skin toughness, fruit firmness, and seediness, so some of these individual traits, the majority of consumers liked the Southern highbush textural traits. For both years of skin toughness, fruit firmness, and 1 year of seediness. Rabbiteye and Northern highbush were not significantly different for skin toughness in 18 or fruit firmness in 19. Again, some variation across years, which we've seen with all of our traits. And these traits may influence the consumer overall liking that we're seeing. The next project I'd like to talk about is the storage of those fruit in cold storage. And this was conducted by my master's student, Ryan Mooneyham, who just graduated this December. So we tried to maximize the fruit that we got in as many ways as possible. So a portion of that fruit went to the consumer panels and instrumental studies, and then a portion went to Ryan's project as well to evaluate it over about a month in fresh post-harvest storage. So the same varieties, a few of them we didn't evaluate for his project because we didn't have quite the number. It takes a lot of fruit to feed the consumers. And again, using commercial standards, whatever was being commercially hand harvested or machine harvested is what we went with. We evaluated them over 4 intervals, 4 time points over a month. Initial was 3 to 4 days after we got the fruit, and then every 10 days until we reached 30 days. Ryan measured fruit firmness and skin toughness that I described with Kathleen's study. He also looked at total titratable acidity, so the fruit acid content, and degrees Brix, which is the overall measurement of fruit sugar. And you can see he starts with the berry blend, has a puree, centrifuges it out, and gets a nice pure blueberry juice to measure. Measured the acid content and then measured an overall measurement of sugar content as well. And we did all of these measurements for each of the 4 time points. Last measurement that we'll talk about today is the visual assessment of percent healthy fruit. And this was basically to look at the fruit and say, is it free from defect? Would I eat it? Could I be able to sell it? We didn't take the time to categorize the tear or the mold or what it may be. Basically, if it was something you could pop into your mouth, it was a healthy fruit. If it wasn't, then we didn't consider it to be one. Okay, so let's take a look at his fruit firmness. So let's, to familiarize you with the table, or excuse me, the figure a little bit here. So we have northern highbush here on the left, rabbiteye cultivars in the middle, southern highbush cultivars on the right. To try to make it a little easier to follow, we went ahead and ordered them approximately the order that they are appearing here is the layout of the cultivars in each of the types here. Now, we're not going to spend too much time going into individual cultivars, again, just going over the overall type comparisons. So, and then across the bottom are time points 1 through 4. So initially out of the field, 10 days, 20 days, and 30 days after storage. So let's take a look at the type comparisons for fruit firmness in year 1. In 2018, rabbiteye had the largest overall change with an increase of 26% firmer over the course of 1 month in storage. Highbush types had no change. So the way that we were looking at this is, ideally, we'd like to see whatever is going into the cooler quality-wise is the same quality that we're getting coming back out. We don't really want things to change drastically. So we evaluated it as if it was going in and coming out as the same quality as more desirable here. For the second year of fruit firmness, for northern highbush, it had the largest overall change at about a 33% increase. Rabbiteye was a little over 30%, southern highbush at 25%. So all showing an increase the second year. Overall, these results suggest that the variation in ranking at both time point 1 and time point 4, or there is variation between time point 1 and 4 between years. And this suggests that southern highbush more consistently maintains fruit firmness best in storage compared to northern highbush or rabbiteye types. For fruit skin strength for year 1, rabbiteye had the largest overall change at 6%, which still is not very much, and not very large or no change with southern highbush, and minimal change. That's a typo there with the southern highbush. In year 2, rabbiteye had the largest overall change, increasing at 23%, and northern highbush, smallest overall change, under 20%. So these results suggest that southern highbush and northern highbush maintain skin strength best in storage as compared to rabbiteye types. Now let's take a look at the sugar-acid ratio, a very important fruit quality measurement in any sort of fruit crop. In 2018, southern highbush had the largest change of a 20% increase of sugar-acid ratio over storage in the cooler. However, rabbiteye and northern highbush had no change. The second year, southern highbush had the largest overall change with 11%, and rabbiteye and northern highbush no change. So overall, these results suggest that sugar-acid ratio is more stable in rabbiteye and northern highbush cultivars throughout post-harvest storage than southern highbush. And our last parameter for the post-harvest keeping quality study, percent healthy fruit. In 2018, rabbiteye had the largest overall change, reducing in percent healthy fruit by almost 50% over the course of a month in the cooler, which is quite a lot. Southern highbush, about 25% reduction, and northern highbush, 23%, so almost identical there. In the second year of that, rabbiteye, again, having about a 50% reduction over time. Northern highbush and southern highbush, 34 and 29% respectively, reduce quality over time. So overall, this suggests that southern highbush may maintain visual appearance, southern highbush and northern highbush, excuse me, may maintain visual appearance better than rabbiteye types in the cooler over time. The last project that I want to introduce you to today is my current PhD student, Jamal Mohammed, who started to take a look at flavor and aroma profiles within the cultivars within these 3 major types. So switching a little bit of gears here. So what is flavor? Flavor is considered to be a mixture of taste and smell or aroma. So taste is based on the taste receptors in the mouth. So we have 5 main tastes, including sweet, salty, bitter, umami, and savory, I believe. Aroma is the smell derived from volatile compounds that you can be perceived in your nose. So it's actually something that you're smelling. Some fruit aromas are largely based on just one compound, such as banana or peach. And then other fruits have multiple compounds that contribute to aroma, such as citrus, apple, tomato. In blueberry, we have 11 compounds attributing to blueberries, or commonly found in blueberries, 5 attributing to blueberry flavor as determined by trained taste panelists, 6 common in the genus to which blueberry belongs. So to process this is the same fruit that we got. So I was able to take this fruit and split it between 3 projects, one for Kathleen here, one for Ryan, and now for Jamal, trying to get the most amount of information we can for the fruit that we received. Same sorting process, made a puree, put it into a little amber glass vial here, loaded it into the GCMS machine, and basically this little box heats it up and shakes it because heated smells, like when you're baking cookies in the oven versus cookie dough, is going to smell the whole house like delicious cookies. So we heat it up and shake it around, insert a fiber to capture those volatile smells, put it through the GCMS, and then each one of these peaks is an individual flavor volatile. So when we initially did the analyses for this, we realized that Draper was 1.5 to 5 times higher than all the other cultivars, depending upon what the compound was. It was so high, in fact, that we really couldn't see clearly what was happening with the rest of the cultivars and types. So I'm not presenting the data set with Draper in it. We went ahead and removed it because it's just so much higher than everything else. We couldn't get a clear picture. So these results are with Draper removed. And these 5 compounds are the volatiles that are associated with blueberry flavor. So 4 out of 5 were detected in our material. And 3 cultivars were similar for blueberry-related compounds. And these were compounds contributing to the floral, fruit, citrus, or pungent aroma within blueberries. And it suggests that blueberry flavors and volatile aroma is similar among these particular cultivars. Now, taking a look at the volatiles common within the genus in which blueberry is located, again with Draper removed, the rabbiteye cultivars and the northern highbush cultivars were more similar for volatiles overall compared to southern highbush. Here you can see that. For volatiles such as limonene, which is an orange fragrance here in the orange, or terpenol in the green, a lime fragrance. So this suggests that rabbiteye and northern highbush cultivars, such as those listed here, may have more of an orange and lime smell. So when we looked at over the type comparisons, northern highbush were much higher for southern highbush and rabbiteye for linalool, which is floral, fruity citrus, and geraniol, which is a floral rose smell. And it suggests that northern highbush may be more that fruity floral citrus than both southern highbush and rabbiteye. Looking at the volatiles common in the Vaccinium genus, southern highbush and rabbiteye were similar for all the volatiles detected except for limonene orange flavor. And this suggests that southern highbush, rabbiteye, and northern highbush, in addition to their blueberry aroma, may also exhibit a grassy lemon and orange-like smell. So let's hit the very take-home points for all 3 of those studies. So the major points for the consumer panels: the results do not support that rabbiteye have tougher skin and firmer fruit than highbush, nor are rabbiteye seedier than northern highbush, but they do have more plump seed, which may negatively affect consumer overall liking and overall texture. Overall, we did notice a lot of change from year 1 to year 2 in terms of the varieties. The top ones weren't always the top ones, and the bottom ones weren't always the bottom ones, and so forth. So we think that there's a lot of environmental variation that is affecting this. So we don't think it's just type or just cultivar that affects the fruit quality. And overall, the results suggest that northern highbush fruit quality isn't superior than southern highbush and rabbiteye. And southern highbush were liked by more consumers for all traits. And interestingly enough, some of the traits rabbiteye were liked as much as northern highbush for fruit quality. For post-harvest keeping quality, overall, the data suggests that in post-harvest storage, southern highbush may maintenance or have the best maintenance of fruit firmness and skin strength. And the two highbush types may have a better maintenance of visual appearance than rabbiteye. Again, we think there's more factors than just standard genetic variation caused by cultivar or type at play. And the next step that we will be doing is also looking at more detailed sugar and acid profile of the time points of these cultivars at various time points as well. And the last part, the take-home points for flavor. Results suggest that Draper is just so high compared to the other compounds, other cultivars, that you just can't see the differences. So we had to remove it. And then once we removed it, we were able to see what was going on with the other cultivars. So volatiles associated with blueberry flavor. Northern highbush were higher than southern highbush and rabbiteye for linalool and geranol, which suggests that northern highbush have a more citrus, fruity, and floral flavor than southern highbush and rabbiteye. And for the volatiles commonly found in the blueberry genus, there were no differences between the three types for the orange flavor, for the volatiles except limonene, which is orange flavor. So northern highbush has more of an orange flavor than rabbiteye than does southern highbush. And the next steps that we'll be doing is Jamal is wrapping up the analyses from the 2019 season. Finally, we're able to get back in the lab to do that. And they'll also be looking at the consumer acceptability scores as they relate to these as well. So with that, lots of people to thank, people within various Dr. Adhikari, Dr. Chavez, and Dr. Nambizin's lab, FST faculty, and our statistician, Ag and Environmental Services lab, and most importantly, you guys, the growers. If you did not give us those generous donations of fruit, there is no way we would be able to conduct this research. So thank you very, very much. Also, a thank you for our funding from the USDA Block Grant and from the Georgia Blueberry Commodity Commission. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and take any questions that you may have.